The CEO's voice echoed coldly as security dragged the janitor away before sunrise. Nobody noticed the janitor's trembling hands gripping a lunch bag sewn by his daughter. Employees watched silently, pretending keyboards mattered more than a man's dignity. The janitor whispered apologies, although nobody explained what unforgivable crime he committed. His name was Daniel Brooks, 54, widowed, exhausted, invisible, inside polished glass hallways. Every night, Daniel cleaned floors, reflecting wealth he never touched or truly understood. At home, his daughter Lily waited, counting steps on stairs whenever keys rattled downstairs. Lily was 11, bright-eyed, brave, hiding fear behind drawings taped beside their fridge. That fridge hummed loudly because emptiness echoes louder when hope becomes rationed carefully. Daniel promised Lily college dreams, despite overtime barely covering rent and asthma medication. That morning, Daniel arrived early, polishing executive elevators before suits flooded marble lobbies. He overheard shouting near conference rooms, where important decisions destroyed unknown lives daily. A sharp voice accused him of stealing, misplacing documents, sabotaging a confidential presentation. Daniel froze, confused, clutching his mop while executives formed a judgmental semicircle. The CEO stepped forward, impeccably dressed, eyes sharp like numbers replacing human faces. Security arrived before Daniel could speak, truth drowning beneath polished authority and impatience. Lily's lunch bag fell, spilling sandwiches shaped into hearts, ignored by expensive shoes. Daniel pleaded softly, asking to explain, promising honesty. He practiced like daily prayers. The CEO dismissed him publicly, citing zero tolerance, efficiency, and corporate image protection. Phones recorded everything, capturing humiliation destined for private group chats and cruel jokes. Daniel's badge was cut, identity severed with plastic scissors beneath fluorescent lighting. Outside, winter air burned his lungs, while glass towers reflected his shattered reflection. He walked home, rehearsing explanations for Lily, fearing questions sharper than accusations. Lily listened quietly, then hugged him, whispering faith adults often forget exists. Daniel spent the night staring at documents hidden inside an old toolbox beneath bedboards. Those papers represented secrets from decades earlier, earned through choices he never shared. Morning sunlight touched dusty envelopes containing shares, contracts, and a forgotten signature. Daniel folded them carefully, deciding silence had protected Lily long enough from dangerous truths. He wore his only suit, ironed meticulously, buttons strained by years of neglect. Lily asked why he dressed fancy, and Daniel smiled without answering directly. They walked downtown, passing the same building where yesterday stripped him publicly. Security guards laughed, until Daniel requested entry for the shareholder emergency meeting. They hesitated, scanning lists, finding his name stamped boldly beside significant holdings. Inside, executives panicked as emergency alerts summoned everyone unexpectedly before market opening. Daniel entered the boardroom calmly, while familiar faces stared like ghosts. Seeing daylight, the CEO frowned, recognizing the janitor, yet sensing irreversible miscalculations unfolding rapidly. Daniel placed the documents gently, voice steady, requesting recognition of controlling ownership rights. Silence swallowed oxygen as lawyers verified signatures dated decades earlier, perfectly legitimate. The CEO's knuckles whitened as realization struck, power slipping through tailored fingers. Daniel looked around, remembering mopped floors, whispered insults, invisible years stacking silently. He cleared his throat, requesting agenda priority, eyes meeting the CEO's disbelief. The board chairman announced verification complete, acknowledging Daniel Brooks as majority shareholder. Lily squeezed Daniel's hand, unaware history pivoted violently inside that polished room. The CEO attempted speech, but words collapsed under mounting terror and murmuring disbelief. Daniel requested one thing first: His job termination reconsidered publicly and immediately. The board complied nervously, sensing consequences far exceeding employment reinstatement discussions. Daniel stood, thanked them politely, then asked security to escort someone else outside. All eyes turned slowly toward the CEO, whose smile fractured under collective realization. Security hesitated, awaiting confirmation, while Daniel nodded once, calmly asserting authority. The CEO protested loudly, citing contracts, reputation, power built over ruthless decades. Daniel listened patiently, then requested yesterday's termination footage be displayed again. Screens lit up, replaying humiliation. Lily's lunch bag, visible beneath uncaring footsteps. Daniel's voice remained soft. As he asked one question, nobody dared interrupt. He asked whether efficiency justified cruelty when truth never received breathing room. The room remained silent as Daniel turned toward windows overlooking waking city streets. He announced immediate suspension pending investigation. Effective now, escorted respectfully, please. Security approached the CEO, whose confidence dissolved into pleading disbelief and visible panic. Lily watched quietly, sensing justice unfolding like stories Daniel once told bedtime. As the CEO was escorted out, Daniel felt decades lift, yet heavier burdens await. The chairman asked Daniel his next directive, voice trembling with newfound caution. Daniel glanced at Lily, then said, tomorrow would bring changes nobody expects. He scheduled a press conference, promising transparency, accountability, and leadership restructuring announcements. Cameras waited outside, reporters buzzing, unaware yesterday's janitor now owned everything. Daniel adjusted his suit, whispering to Lily that secrets sometimes protect until necessary. Doors opened, flashes exploded, and Daniel stepped forward into consequences he once avoided. He inhaled deeply, knowing forgiveness and vengeance balanced precariously within his next words. Daniel approached microphones as the disgraced CEO watched helplessly from security doors. The crowd leaned forward as Daniel raised his hand, beginning with unexpected silence. Before speaking, he locked eyes with the former CEO, expression unreadable, resolute. Daniel opened his mouth, and the future trembled, waiting for his first sentence. Daniel's first words froze, reporters completely, turning justice into something far more dangerous. Daniel spoke slowly, thanking everyone for attending on such unexpected, urgent notice. He introduced himself as Daniel Brooks, long-term shareholder, recent janitor, lifelong observer. Murmurs rippled as cameras zoomed, capturing humility, contrasting corporate arrogance memorably. Daniel explained how power often ignores quiet people, maintaining foundations others proudly stand upon. He described mopping executive offices while listening to decisions shaping thousands of families' futures. The crowd listened, uncomfortable, recognizing truths rarely spoken during controlled press narratives. Daniel clarified he never planned takeover theatrics, preferring silence until silence endangered Lily. He revealed wrongful termination, forced his hand, exposing ownership reluctantly, painfully, publicly. Reporters asked about his past education and how a janitor amassed controlling shares. Daniel paused, choosing transparency carefully, revealing a forgotten startup investment decades earlier. He had been the company's original engineer, selling vision cheaply to protect newborn family. The CEO had risen using Daniel's architecture, slowly erasing his name from records. Daniel never fought, choosing anonymity, believing money without time cannot raise children properly. Now, circumstances changed, demanding accountability, compassion, and ethical recalibration immediately. Daniel announced independent audits, executive reviews, and new worker protection policies, effective immediately. Employees watching live streams cried, finally hearing dignity acknowledged by real authority. Daniel then addressed Lily, thanking her publicly for reminding him courage remains teachable. The former CEO watched television from a holding room, rage boiling beneath stunned helplessness. Lawyers swarmed Daniel afterward, advising caution, settlements, and image management strategies. Daniel listened politely, then declined spin, insisting truth speaks clearer than crafted narratives. He reinstated himself as janitor, temporarily shocking everyone, explaining leadership begins with service. Daniel spent days cleaning alongside workers, listening to grievances, names, and unheard ideas. Lily accompanied him after school, doing homework while learning empathy through observation. Executives grew nervous, realizing their behavior faced genuine scrutiny beyond performative memos. Daniel uncovered wage theft, discrimination, and retaliation buried beneath complex reporting systems. He terminated several executives quietly, offering fair severance conditioned on cooperation. The former CEO hired media consultants, planning counterattacks, framing Daniel as unstable imposter. Anonymous leaks appeared online, questioning Daniel's competence, motives, and mental fitness. Daniel responded calmly, releasing documents proving competence, patents, and long-term strategic vision. Public opinion shifted sharply, supporting humility over inherited arrogance increasingly. Employees organized town halls, sharing stories of mistreatment, now validated publicly. Daniel listened silently, sometimes apologizing personally for pain he never directly caused. Meanwhile, the former CEO plotted legally, filing emergency injunctions to regain control. Court hearings were scheduled, threatening prolonged battles, draining energy and public goodwill. Daniel prepared meticulously, assembling ethical legal teams, valuing justice beyond profit margins. During depositions, the former CEO admitted knowledge of Daniel's shares decades earlier. That admission shocked judges, revealing intentional concealment and systematic erasure of Daniel's contributions. Media coverage intensified, portraying a morality play resonating deeply across economic divides. Lily faced bullying at school, classmates mocking her father's janitor background publicly. Daniel addressed assembly personally, explaining dignity transcends job titles, earning respect. The school principal apologized, implementing empathy programs inspired by Daniel's visit. Court day arrived, packed with reporters, employees, investors, and curious onlookers. Daniel testified calmly, recounting decades of silence, sacrifice, and deliberate restraint. Former CEO cross-examined aggressively, but truth unraveled beneath documented evidence. The judge ruled swiftly, denying injunctions, affirming Daniel's authority permanently. Cheers erupted outside courthouse as Daniel emerged, Lily smiling proudly beside him. That evening, Daniel received anonymous threats, warning consequences for dismantling entrenched systems. Security advised caution, suggesting reduced visibility and personal protection measures immediately. Daniel refused, fear-driven decisions, insisting courage inspires more safety than secrecy. He announced profit-sharing programs, healthcare expansions, and educational grants company-wide. Stock prices dipped briefly, then surged as long-term investor confidence strengthened. Daniel's leadership style fascinated business schools, contrasting empathy-driven metrics with profitability. The former CEO faced criminal investigations, allies distancing themselves rapidly. One night, Daniel found his apartment door forced open, documents scattered intentionally. Nothing stolen, only a message written. Power never forgives. Humiliation easily. Daniel held Lily tightly, realizing his choices endangered more than himself now. He requested board approval for relocating them temporarily under protective arrangements. The board agreed, but Daniel sensed running contradicted everything he promised publicly. He decided to confront the threat source directly, seeking closure through courage. Daniel requested a private meeting with the former CEO, despite legal counsel objections. The former CEO agreed, smirking, believing psychological leverage still existed somewhere. They met in an empty office overlooking the city once ruled unchallenged. Daniel entered alone, carrying no security, only a folder of truths. The former CEO laughed softly, congratulating Daniel on temporary public favor. Daniel listened, then placed another document, revealing deeper secrets the CEO forgot. The former CEO's smile vanished as recognition dawned, far darker than financial loss. Daniel leaned forward, voice calm, explaining consequences beyond courtrooms approaching swiftly. The former CEO's hands shook as Daniel mentioned names connected to federal investigations. Daniel stood, leaving the office silently, knowing retaliation might escalate dangerously now. That night, sirens surrounded Daniel's building, forcing him to choose fear or sacrifice. Police escorted Daniel and Lily out as flashing lights painted fear across neighbors' windows. Authorities cited anonymous bomb threats, clearly intended intimidation rather than actual imminent danger. Daniel refused evacuation secrecy, choosing visible calm to deny perpetrators psychological victories. The former CEO denied involvement publicly, though investigators traced connections quietly. Daniel relocated Lily temporarily with trusted friends, heart heavy with reluctant separation. He continued working daily, refusing to let threats dictate leadership or principles. Federal agents contacted Daniel, requesting cooperation regarding broader corporate corruption investigations. Daniel agreed, understanding silence enables systems harming countless invisible families. Whistleblowers emerged internally, sharing evidence previously buried by legal intimidation. Daniel protected them fiercely, offering anonymity, counseling, and financial stability guarantees. The company transformed culturally, fear replaced by cautious hope across departments. Meanwhile, the former CEO's allies launched lawsuits, targeting Daniel personally. Daniel's past was scrutinized mercilessly, including parenting choices, finances, private griefs. Media outlets attempted scandal narratives, but authenticity shielded Daniel effectively. Lily struggled emotionally, missing normalcy, friends, and evenings with her father. Daniel reassured her nightly, promising storms pass when courage anchors firmly. A surprise board proposal emerged, suggesting Daniel step down temporarily for stability optics. Daniel listened carefully, recognizing fear disguised as pragmatism within familiar corporate language. He declined, reminding them leadership demands endurance during turbulence, not convenient disappearance. The board respected his conviction, though tension lingered beneath professional smiles. Court proceedings escalated. Indictments filed against multiple executives, including former CEO. Public protests erupted nationwide, workers demanding accountability across industries. Daniel addressed crowds briefly, urging peaceful persistence rather than destructive outrage. One protest turned violent unexpectedly, media blaming corporate tensions and leadership failures. Daniel visited injured protesters personally, offering medical support without publicity cameras. The former CEO attempted plea negotiations, offering information in exchange for leniency. Prosecutors listened, uncovering networks spanning industries, politics, and financial institutions. Daniel realized his fight extended beyond one company into systemic reform territory. He questioned whether remaining visible risked Lily's safety irreversibly. Lily wrote him a letter, expressing pride and fear intertwined honestly. She asked if heroes ever wish they remained ordinary sometimes. Daniel cried quietly, realizing heroism often begins with unwanted choices. He sought advice from mentors he once avoided, rebuilding trust gradually. One mentor warned, change invites backlash, sometimes violent, always persistent. Daniel implemented decentralized leadership structures, reducing single-point vulnerability risks. He transferred partial authority to employee councils, embedding accountability culturally. The former CEO's trial date approached, tension thickening across news cycles. Daniel was subpoenaed to testify again, this time against powerful political figures. Threat levels increased, security urging extreme measures, including disappearance possibilities. Daniel refused exile, believing truth must be witnessed to inspire others. On trial day, Daniel entered courthouse amid chanting supporters and hostile detractors. He testified calmly, detailing corruption patterns with clarity and documented evidence. The former CEO glared, hatred replacing arrogance, as freedom evaporated. Judges ordered sealed investigations, expanding dramatically beyond initial expectations. That evening, Daniel received a call from Lily, voice shaking with fear. She reported strangers questioning her friends about Daniel's routines and movements. Daniel's heart raced, realizing lines had been crossed irreversibly now. He contacted authorities immediately, arranging emergency relocation for Lily discreetly. Daniel blamed himself, questioning moral limits when protecting loved ones, conflicts, ideals. He considered stepping down publicly, trading justice for Lily's safety. That night, he stood alone in his office, city lights reflecting choices. He recorded a message scheduled for release, addressing employees and public honestly. Daniel acknowledged threats, risks, and his willingness to resign if safety required. Before sending, he received unexpected video footage from a secure, anonymous source. The footage showed the former CEO orchestrating intimidation, kidnapping plans, explicit threats. Daniel forwarded evidence instantly to federal authorities, hands shaking with controlled rage. Minutes later, sirens echoed again, this time targeting someone else's doorstep. News alerts announced the former CEO's arrest on additional conspiracy charges. Daniel exhaled slowly, believing danger subsided, though scars remained permanent. He released his recorded message anyway, emphasizing transparency over personal relief. Public support surged overwhelmingly, donations flooding charities. Daniel quietly endorsed. Lily returned home weeks later, stronger, understanding courage's complicated costs. The trial concluded with historic convictions, sentences reflecting decades of abuse. Daniel attended sentencing silently. Closure bittersweet, without celebration or triumph. Afterward, he addressed employees privately, thanking resilience, promising continued vigilance. The company thrived ethically, profitability aligning unexpectedly with humane practices. Years passed, Daniel remained CEO, reluctantly prioritizing mentorship and succession planning. On anniversary of his firing, Daniel visited the lobby alone before dawn. He mopped floors quietly, remembering humility, pain, and choices shaping everything. A new janitor approached, unaware, apologizing for interrupting the CEO unexpectedly. Daniel smiled, introducing himself simply, asking the janitor's name kindly. The janitor mentioned fear of termination after minor mistake earlier that week. Daniel listened, recognizing echoes of his past self standing there. He reassured him gently, promising mistakes teach more than punishment ever could. As Daniel left, he noticed someone watching from the shadows, silently. That figure stepped forward, revealing a connection Daniel never anticipated confronting again. The man emerged trembling, introducing himself as the former CEO's estranged brother. He explained guilt consumed him, carrying information hidden for decades from authorities. Daniel listened cautiously, sensing unresolved chapters threatening newfound peace. The brother revealed offshore accounts, funding intimidation campaigns, still active quietly. Daniel realized justice incomplete, requiring one final confrontation beyond courtrooms. He contacted federal agents immediately, coordinating sting operations meticulously. The brother agreed to cooperate fully, seeking redemption rather than immunity. Weeks unfolded with tense silence, surveillance tightening around shadow networks. Daniel shielded Lily carefully, limiting exposure while maintaining emotional honesty. The operation culminated unexpectedly during a charity gala hosted by the company. High-profile donors attended, unaware arrests would unfold beneath elegant chandeliers. Daniel delivered a speech about accountability, voice steady, eyes scanning knowingly. Federal agents moved simultaneously, detaining financiers, intermediaries, and complicit executives. Panic rippled discreetly, masked by music and polite applause. Confusion. The brother was escorted away safely, nodding gratefully toward Daniel. News broke hours later, dismantling remaining corruption structures definitively. Daniel returned home, exhausted, Lily asleep, drawings depicting peaceful futures everywhere. He realized his journey transformed not just a company, but generational possibilities. Months later, Daniel announced succession plans, promoting leaders shaped by empathy. He stepped back, gradually, choosing teaching, writing, and quiet advocacy roles. The company honored janitors annually, celebrating invisible labor, sustaining visible success. Daniel declined monuments, requesting scholarships instead, for workers' children nationwide. Lily grew confident, pursuing engineering, inspired by stories once hidden. Years passed peacefully, though Daniel never forgot humility's fragile importance. One evening, Lily asked if he regretted revealing himself that morning. Daniel smiled thoughtfully, answering that truth demands courage when silence harms. He reminded her, power means protecting dignity, especially when nobody watches. They walked past the same building, lights glowing warmly instead of coldly. Inside, a janitor worked peacefully, unafraid, respected, secure. Daniel squeezed Lily's hand, content, knowing cycles of cruelty ended quietly. The world kept spinning, imperfect yet slightly fairer, because one man spoke. Sometimes justice arrives disguised as loss, demanding bravery before offering lasting peace.